Now, President Trump said that he's committed to dismantling these leftist organizations. And I hope that this is true. I have so much faith in President Trump. If I said a few minutes ago that members of his administration, his cabinet, members of Congress, and even he and Vice President J.D. Vance, they're now facing a new moment in our country. It's almost that same transformation that happens when a president suddenly becomes a wartime president. You know, President George Bush was a different president before 9/11 than he was after 9/11. Wartime presidents are different. And that same sort of transformation is going to be necessary within the Trump administration. And it's going to become very clear very quickly which members of President Trump's administration are up for this task and which members of Trump's administration are not up for this task. And I'm so grateful that President Trump is the chief executive at this moment. If there's one person who is qualified for this moment, who understands the hatred that motivated Charlie Kirk's assassin, it's Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump has been subject to assassination attempts. By the grace of God, he survived by what, a fraction of a centimeter? By a fraction of a centimeter. And another member of Trump's administration, Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller says that the last communication he had with Charlie Kirk was Charlie Kirk encouraging Stephen Miller to dismantle these leftist organizations. And when the vice president, J.D. Vance, guest hosted Charlie Kirk's radio show yesterday, he was talking to Stephen Miller, and Stephen Miller related this back and forth that he had with Charlie Kirk, and I want us to take a look at it.
Excellent question. I said this before, but it bears repeating. The last message that Charlie sent me was, I think it was just the day before we lost him, which is that we need to have an organized strategy to go after the left-wing organizations that are promoting violence in this country. And I will write those words onto my heart, and I will carry them out. If people ask me, what emotions I'm feeling right now, it's just something people say. I mean, you kind of know the answer. There's incredible sadness, but there's incredible anger. And the thing about anger is that unfocused anger or blind rage is not a productive emotion.
Right.
But focused anger, righteous anger, directed for a just cause is one of the most important agents of change in human history.
Charlie showed that. Amen.
And we are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. So let me explain a little bit what that means. So,
you've got 30 seconds, so be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized campaigns of dehumanization, vilification, posting people's addresses, combining that with messaging that's designed to trigger and incite violence, and the actual organized cells that carry out and facilitate the violence, it is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
Thank you, Stephen. Don't go.
Amen. If that doesn't give you confidence, if that doesn't give you hope, then I don't know what will besides God in this moment. Do we have, Spencer, the clip of President Trump? Because one of the most important things that President Trump has said over the course of the past couple days is that he is open, if the Department of Justice recommends it, to declaring Antifa to be a terrorist organization. And you heard what Mike Benz talked about earlier. You heard him say that, the transgender groups around the world, not just here in the United States, but the transgender groups and Antifa are critical parts of the left's orchestrated strategy to foment unrest. And if we have that clip of President Trump, I'd like to play it.
Given with all the that's going on with Charlie Kirk's assassination and the left-wing violence going on, do you have plans, and actually this is a great opportunity with all these, do you plan on designating Antifa finally a domestic terror organization?
Well, it's something I would do, yeah. If I have support from the people back here, I think we'd start with Pam, but I would, if you give me, I would do that 100%, and others also, by the way, but Antifa is terrible.
Are there other groups that you can think of?
There are other groups, yeah, there are other groups. We have some pretty radical groups, and they got away with murder. And also, I've been speaking to the Attorney General about bringing RICO against some of the people that you've been reading about that have been putting up millions and millions of dollars for agitation. These aren't protests. These are crimes, what they're doing, where they're throwing bricks at cars of the of ICE and Border Patrol. And they
Thank goodness. Thank goodness President Trump understands what's going on here. And listen, everything we talked about in the episode today matches the description of what President Trump is talking about. I mean, think about this radical transgender group, this armed queer Salt Lake City group. Not only have they taken money from State Department affiliated NGOs while proclaiming that their principles are violent overthrow of capitalism, promotion of communism, anti-Americanism, not only are they associated with a group from Texas, a trans Antifa group that violently attacked an ICE agent, murdered an ICE agent, they went on a trip to communist Cuba where they learned revolutionary tactics, and this group was part of, this group was organized by, this trip was organized by a group that includes NGO members, and these NGO members are Roy Singham affiliated NGOs. I know it's a tangled web. Sometimes it reminds me of that meme of that guy with like trying to draw the lines between all these different points. This is what the left intends to do. They try to confuse you. They try to deceive you. They try to make it impossible for us to untangle what they're doing so that when a crime is committed against one of our own, we just look at the one guy who fired the bullet and we say, well, we'll charge him with a crime. Meanwhile, a vast conspiracy that cultivated this assassination culture on the left was intentional. And it's not okay. And it's not protected by the First Amendment to threaten violence. It's not okay. It's not protected by the First Amendment to commit conspiracy to overthrow the U.S. government or to incite imminent violence. It's not. And thank goodness, thank God, the Trump administration, from President Trump himself to Vice President J.D. Vance to Attorney General Pam Bondi to Stephen Miller, seem to understand the reality of the political enemy that we are facing.